everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hi, hello, bonjour. It's the Duchess of Monty Shit Show here. How are you all doing? I hope you're well. A big hello to you all and a special hello and welcome to those who are new to this channel. Thank you for subscribing and for joining our little community and helping this channel to grow. If you're here for the very first time and you like what you hear, please do like, share and subscribe. It's totally free to subscribe and sharing these videos helps to reach many more people. Thank you also for all your comments on my last video, especially the messages to and about Clark. Wasn't he just fabulous? He absolutely thoroughly enjoyed sitting here giving his points of view. And he's asked me to say a big thank you to all for your comments and for being so kind, and he promises he'll be back on another one of my videos very soon, whether I like it or not. I'm not needed anymore, am I? It's just the Clark show now. So before I get started, let me just do some basic housekeeping and say that everything I say in this video are my own thoughts and opinions. You should look into the information for yourselves. Any photos and articles used have been pulled from the public domain and from social media, and I'm using them under the fair use and fair dealings guidelines. Now, don't fall off your chairs, guys, but it seems that Spotify's $18 million deal with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will actually finally result in a podcast series this summer with the launch of Meghan's first show. It was announced yesterday that the Duchess of Sussex will be launching her podcast on Spotify with her very first series already in production. And as we all know, Harry and Meghan both signed this deal way back in December 2020 and promised to produce exclusive podcasts that build community through shared experiences, narratives and values. But to date, it's only released just the one podcast, a 25-minute holiday special which featured guests such as Elton John, James Corden and Tyler Perry. And they did absolutely nothing since. There were strong reports that the deal between Spotify and the Sharkles was on the rocks, and in January 2020, Spotify was said to have been putting pressure on Archewell to deliver content. Any content. It would seem that they may well have kissed and made up now, though. It's unclear at this point what content is planned for Meghan, but what we do know is that it is likely she will address misinformation on social media. An Archewell audio spokesperson confirmed that the decision to push ahead with the podcast was made following meetings and conversations between Archewell and Spotify executives regarding the streaming service provider's misinformation policies and practices. According to a tweet by Brian Selter, CNN's chief media correspondent, Harry and Meghan are satisfied that their concerns are being adequately addressed. Predictably, the very vocal, the straight-talking, the free speech advocating Piers Morgan, who I adore by the way, took to Twitter and responded to this announcement saying, "So a proven liar is now satisfied nobody else is lying. That's beyond parody." Yikes. He never misses an opportunity to take a pot shot at Meghan, does he? I think he has a very valid point, though. It's only just a few short months since Meghan was found to have lied during the A&L appeal court case and was then forced to apologise to the British court. It's fair to say that June will be an exceptionally busy month for the royals. There'll be the annual Trooping the Colour Parade on the 2nd of June, the huge Platinum Party event at Buckingham Palace on the 4th of June, which just so happens to coincide with baby Elizabeth's first birthday, no less, and there's other events going on around this time. Also, Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, will be turning 40 on the 21st of June, with a huge joint party planned for him and Catherine, who turned 40 earlier this year on 9th of January, which also happens to be Clark's birthday. Small world, isn't it? Now, given the Sharkles' long-standing history of pulling stunts to upstage royal visits and celebrations, I can't help but wonder about the timing of this podcast and whether it's been scheduled to accidentally, on purpose, be released on or around one of these major events. A simple podcast won't be enough to create too many waves, so if we go past precedent, I would expect some bombshells or dramas in the run up to June, or in June itself, so as to create more publicity for Meghan and to overshadow royal events in the UK. Reports also suggest that Meghan's podcast will focus heavily on women's empowerment. Now, I'm afraid I'm going to have to take issue with this. Don't get me wrong, I am all for celebrating women, gender equality, yada yada. However, it's personally very difficult for me to be inspired by Meghan Markle, and I shall tell you why. Despite what she would have us all believe, Meghan is embarrassed and ashamed of her black heritage and ancestry. Back in the day, she joined a sorority for white girls, when there were plenty of sororities for black women and those of mixed race. She also stated that she was Caucasian on her CV and her driving licence, and the first she ever really truly acknowledged her ethnicity was soon after she began dating Harry. Coincidence? She married into the royal family and planned to leave pretty much even before the ink dried on her marriage certificate, pretty much. Despite promising the Queen she wouldn't, she continues to abuse the title bestowed upon her daily. I'm just, exasperated. And she exploits it to create big money-making deals and opportunities and merches it at every available opportunity. I personally can't be inspired by anyone who, cold-heartedly cuts off or trashes her family and friends in the way that she has and continues to do. But if you think about it, not only has she cut off contact for herself, she is also knowingly and willingly depriving her young son and baby daughter of their right to spend time, get to know and build relationships with their grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and their great-grandmother, who just happens to be the Queen of Great Britain and the Commonwealth, who is in her 96th year, very vulnerable, and in declining health. So to keep the children away from the Queen is just cruel for all concerned. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I would say it's bordering on abuse. People may agree with me with that, people may not agree with me, it's each to their own opinion, but I personally think it is a form of child abuse to keep the children away from their family. Anyway, moving on. In addition to all of this, Meghan is also currently under investigation for bullying, where it's been claimed that she bullied 2 women who worked for her while she was at Kensington Palace, and she undermined the confidence of a 3rd woman in her service. This is not the first we've heard about her supposed bullying. There were strong rumours that whilst Meghan was in her sorority, she superglued another student's eyelids together, and more recently she threw hot tea at an assistant whilst she was on tour in Australia back in 2018. Another reason I find that I can't be empowered by Meghan Markle is that I find her to be incredibly inauthentic and disingenuous. And I don't like saying that about anyone, especially a woman, but it's how I feel. It's my truth, if you want to call it that. How many times has it come to light in the past that her speeches and quotes have actually been plagiarised, usually from Maya Angelou or such? I find with Meghan it's often a case of if it's not watertight, if it's not nailed down, or if it's not copyrighted, she will swipe it and try and pass it off as her own. Case in point, Meghan has often spoken about gender equality and is a self-confessed feminist, but during her, I think it was the UN Women's Speech back in 2015, I believe, she talked about her own experience in fighting against gender inequality, You know, the old washing up liquid commercial story. You know what I'm talking about. The speech took place on International Women's Day, and her finale was a really powerful, uplifting quote. But at no point before, during, or after that speech does she credit the original source, Eleanor Roosevelt. But she was happy to be applauded afterwards and bask in the glory of that powerful speech. Classy. Now, give credit where it's due. I am a nice person, I'm a reasonable person. And despite certain obvious unfavourable character traits that Meghan possesses, I do find her to be both a highly intelligent and highly educated woman. She doesn't need to copy other women's quotes. She doesn't need to copy speeches or ideologies. You know, for someone who stands up and delivers speeches confidently, regularly, you know, knowing full well that the words she says are, for the most part, not her own, you know, that takes a whole dollop of arrogance, you know, and that's just not something I'm okay with. That's not something I'm on board with. You know, when she married Harry and joined the royal family, she suddenly acquired the biggest platform, possibly the biggest platform in the world, you know, far bigger than she'd ever had before, and with a much larger reach. She could have used those platforms to do so much good, you know, humanitarian and philanthropy-wise, but instead, all she seems to have used them so far is to self-promote, self-serve, and develop and use connections with industry bigwigs so she can sign megabucks deals with, you know, Netflix and Spotify, you know, off the back of her married title, you know, whilst also attempting to further her personal and political ambitions. You know, I'm most definitely all for women and men, it's got to be said, that have goals and ambitions and strive to fulfill them, as long as it's done morally and ethically, which, I'm sorry to say, personally, my own opinion, I've not seen much, if any, evidence of that with Meghan thus far. Now, in terms of timing of this podcast, yep, you've guessed it, my spidey senses are tingling. You know, there are no such things as coincidences with the Sharkles. Make no mistake about it, you know, Meghan and Harry are both unlikely to return to Britain for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Meghan certainly, not sure about Harry yet, but it's still looking unlikely because that row over security is still rumbling on. But make no mistake about it, if they're not here for the celebrations, they will definitely have advanced knowledge of what events are happening and when. So her first podcast episode will no doubt be scheduled to coincide with one of these events. And as I said to my followers on Twitter earlier, a Spotify podcast episode will only pique so much interest, so I'm firmly of the belief that some sort of stunt will be pulled in the run-up to or on the day of the celebrations. Maybe yet another bombshell or a big announcement. We may even be treated, and I use that term loosely, to another picture of baby Invisibit, as she will actually turn 1 on June the 4th. You know, just something, anything, any kind of stunt to drum up some PR for her podcast and take the focus away from the royals. I firmly believe that Sunshiny Ballsacks has already been briefed as to what puff PR to write and when to release it into the media. Make no bones about it, I shan't be listening to Meghan's podcast. I didn't listen to the first one, and quite honestly, I'd much rather pull out my pubic hair blindfolded with a pair of rusty tweezers. In fact, to be honest, I won't have much time to follow the Queen's Jubilee celebrations either, because on the 4th of June, I am singing and performing on stage in 2 shows back to back, so I will only have very limited access to social media that day, and will really need to rely on all my followers on Twitter, Instagram and Getter to keep me in the loop. Don't let me down on that one, guys. One question on everyone's lips, well certainly mine, is where's Harry in all this? What about Harry? This very much seems to be the Meghan show, and is definitely being touted as such in the press and on social media. Perhaps she's hired him as her PA and his role is simply to fetch the coffee. Time will certainly tell on that one, but the Spotify deal certainly seems to be pushing forward now. So perhaps the Netflix deal will be the next one and we'll see some content from there. So what do you all think? Will you be listening to Meghan's podcast or will you not? What do you think she'll have to say? Do you think it'll be much of the same wokey word salad that we've all come to expect from her? Do you think it's been deliberately scheduled and will be released during the Queen's celebrations? What PR stunt, if any, do you think they might try to grab the headlines and attention away from the celebrations? Why is it being advertised as Meghan's podcast? Why isn't Harry involved? Oh, so many questions. Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Please pop them in the comments section below. I can't always reply to comments, unfortunately, but I promise you I do read as many as I can. So that's it from me for this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next time, take care and bye for now. Bye!